Welcome to my annual coaster ranking. While I didn't make a lot of videos in 2021, I still gotta update my ranking as every year. This time it's just the top 25, which isn't that much out of 243 coasters, so if you think I've ridden a ride that didn't make the list, ask me and I'll tell you the spot in my ranking down in the comments. That said, let's begin. Coming in at the 25th spot is Anubis The Ride at Plopsaland de Pan. I did not expect this Ghost Tower launch coaster to be this good, but it really is amazing. Not only does it have one of the most powerful launches I have experienced, but it also pulls some really strong Gs, and the ride has pretty much any kind of force that you could ask for. While it's not the longest ride out there, and the second half doesn't do too much, the complete layout together with the well-themed queue line just makes this a fantastic ride. Another Ghost Tower comes in at number 24, Fluch von Novgorod at Hansa Park. And no, I won't use the new name. This Eurofighter is the complete package. Like Anubis, it has all kinds of forces as well as a ridiculously strong launch, but this time there's also a beyond vertical drop and even better theming. Hardly any other ride balances theming, storytelling and layout as well as this one, so it certainly deserves this spot. Taking the 23rd spot is Canada's Wonderland's B&M hypercoaster Behemoth. When B&M decide to make a really good ride, they certainly succeed, and Behemoth is a prime example of this. While it has developed a bit of vibration over the years, the airtime still holds up and the trims don't hurt the ride at all, so this ride is a paradise if you seek floater airtime. The drop was a big surprise here, and it's certainly one of the best drops I have experienced. Diamondback, another B&M hypercoaster, takes the 22nd spot. Like Behemoth, Diamondback is a master at floater airtime. While the quantity isn't quite as high, the quality makes up for that, because Diamondback has some of the best and most fun floater airtime moments I've experienced so far. On top of that, it is an extremely smooth ride, which I wouldn't quite say about the other two B&M hypers I've ridden. And you can't forget about the splashdown at the end, which is a really nice bonus. At number 21 sits Fury, the Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster at Bobbejaanland. This coaster is a great example of why I love Gerstlauer. Only very few rides are more unique than this. I mean, not only can you decide if you want to ride forwards or backwards, but the layout of Fury is also pretty wild. With 2 beyond vertical spikes and 3 launches, there's a lot of stuff going on. Forwards, the ride is quite fun, but backwards, it ascends to a whole nother level, because your orientation is just gone. So not only do you experience some really fun forces, but you also have no idea where you are going when riding backwards, even when you know the layout. On top of that, this was my 200th coaster, so it is quite special to me. Starting off the top 20, which consists of just about 8% of the coasters that I've ridden, is Hyperion at Energylandia. This Intermin hypercoaster is enormous. It's one of Europe's tallest and fastest coasters, but the layout is amazing as well. Especially the first 3 elements as well as the funnelity stand out, and the potential of this coaster is big. There are just a few things that aren't quite that great. During my rides, the outer seats of the train did have quite a rattle during the really fast sections, and my head hurt after a few rides in those seats, which isn't that great. Also, the middle section of the coaster after the first Stangle dive is not that interesting, because the ride doesn't pull a lot of forces there and the pacing starts to suffer as well. Other than that, this is an incredible ride. Another hyper takes the 19th spot, and I'm talking about Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm. This was the prototype Intermin Accelerator, and it is just fantastic. It features an extremely powerful hydraulic launch with a brutal kick at the start, and the top hat provides some fun airtime and great views. The following 2 overbanks get taken at a very high speed, resulting in some pretty strong forces. So while Accelerator is rather short, it packs quite the punch. Coming in at number 18 is Helix at Liseberg, the Mack Rides multi-launch coaster from 2014. What an impressive ride this is. The way it's built onto the hillside of Liesberg is incredible, and the views that the ride provides are stunning. During the layout, there are a lot of inversions, some whippy and some hangtime filled, as well as great airtime moments, but also some surprising positive forces. While it could be a bit more intense, the things it has to offer already make it outstanding. And don't forget about the soundtrack, which is one of IMA Score's finest works. Black Mamba, Phantasialand's B&M invert, sits at number 17. Wow, this coaster is a beast. Every time I ride it, it always overwhelms me with its ridiculous intensity. No matter where you sit, the positive G's are gonna push you into your seat pretty much the entire time, and it's crazy from start to finish. The rip during the rolls is also super aggressive, and at night the ride has warmed up so much that, regardless of where you sit, you will use your orientation entirely. I am impressed how B&M managed to make a ride of this size this powerful, but it is one of the most intense coasters I have ridden. Next up is Gold Rush, sitting at number 16. This is one of Gerstlauer's greatest creations. It might be on the shorter side, but holy cow, it packs more than just a punch. All of the ride's launches are quite intense. The backwards part of the dive loop has some mental hang time. The top hat has outstanding airtime. The sidewinder as well as all of the valleys pull really high positive Gs. The hill provides some fantastic ejector airtime. Even the overbank pulls some surprising forces, and the whip of the dive loop is pretty much as good as it gets. Fantastic ride, fantastic forces, that's all there is to know. Kicking off the top 15 is Millennium Force, the iconic Intermin Giga Coaster at Cedar Point. I love this ride. Its reputation might have dropped a bit over the years, but it still is an incredible coaster. The drop has to be one of the best out there, and the layout is just colossal. While there are mostly just overbanked turns and camelbacks, the forces are still amazing. While there isn't any fight-crushing airtime or whippy transition, the consistent speed together with the solid positive Gs and sustained floater airtime make this a world-class coaster. The way the ride travels from the border of Cedar Point to the park center and back is also an amazing aspect that makes the ride feel a fair bit bigger. Coming in at number 14 is F.L.Y, the Vekoma flying launch coaster at Phantasialand. While Black Mamba certainly is the most intense coaster at this park, F.L.Y delivers the best overall experience. Not only is the theming around the coaster absolutely stunning, but the way the ride interacts with the area is mind-blowing. On top of that, the layout itself is very long and packed with a lot of great forces, especially sustained positive G sections and many ejector airtime pops. And if that wasn't enough, a night ride enhances the experience even more, as diving through the red and blue smoke makes you lose your orientation quite often. Maverick, Cedar Point's Intermin Blitz coaster, takes the 13th spot. When you build a coaster that's fast but not tall, it's gonna be powerful. And Maverick is a great example for this. The ride starts with a really snappy drop after a launched lift hill, and from that point the ride just throws you around. There are several super whippy transitions, powerful airtime moments, fun inversions, and a great launch in the middle of the ride. The second stangle dive at the end of the ride had to be one of the whippiest elements I've experienced, and I kind of wish that Intermin would have kept building rides this aggressive. If the ride had lap bars, no trim brakes, and the hardline roll, it might even enter my top 5, but as it is now, it's still rock solid. Sitting at number 12 is Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland. This B&M Giga Coaster is pretty much just a bigger hyper, but it does its job excellent. It has the speed of Millennium Force, and while it is shorter, it takes Millennium Force's airtime and positive Gs and improves them. Even though it does end rather quickly, every time I rode it I was overwhelmed when the train hit the brakes. Some people prefer a few B&M hypers over this coaster, mainly because of the airtime, but that really isn't what Gigas should be about. They're about the ridiculous speed, and I love that. Taking the 11th spot is Piraten, the Intermin Megalite at Jure Summerland. It took me several rides to fully appreciate this coaster, mainly because it isn't that long, but after a few rides I really enjoyed it. Of course the ride provides fantastic airtime, both rapid and sustained ejector airtime, but the positive Gs are really good as well, especially in the first turn, where most people tend to grey out. I'd even say that this coaster feels a bit like a shorter, but more satisfying Maverick. Now we have reached the top 10. Like last year, some insane rides found their way here, and it becomes harder and harder to rank these rides. Coming in at number 10 is the GCI wooden coaster Troy at Toverland. While I did ride some more GCIs this year, Troy is still my favorite of them. As GCI is great at making lateral field rides, Troy manages to provide a fast paced and out of control ride. There are some decent airtime pops, which is rare for a GCI, but during the compact layout you are mainly just gonna be pushed into the side of your seat. For some reason Troy never loses speed, so even the final few elements manage to have ridiculous laterals. There is no time to catch a breath, so you are in for about a minute of madness. Being a lot shorter, but certainly not less insane than Troy, is the ride at number 9, Cedar Point's top Thrill Dragster. This is one of the shortest rides I've ridden, if we are only looking at the ride time, but it is also one of the most powerful. The launch is the best I've experienced, as you just get brutally pushed into your seat for the whole 4 seconds, and the following top hat is honestly hard to describe. The sensation is just that stunning. Even the final straight before the brakes is amazing because of the mental speed the train is traveling at. Top hat Dragster is short, but it feels more complete than 90% of coasters. Sitting at number 8 is Energylandia's RMC hybrid coaster Zadra. Pacing. This ride is all about its pacing. Of course most of the elements are incredible, like the first drop, the outward bank turn and the final bunny hop, but the pacing is what makes this ride so incredible. You are just rushing through the whole layout super fast, and on the first 2 rides I couldn't even fully appreciate some of the elements because they happen so fast. But that is also where the ride's downside lies. You hit the brakes at a very high speed, and as the train just shredded through element after element, it feels a bit incomplete. As much as I love the pacing, the high speed causes some of the elements to be a bit too drawn out, but this is just nitpicking. Zadra is incredible, that's the important point. Topping Zadra is another RMC, the chopper track Woody Wildfire at Kolmarden Zoo. This coaster's pacing isn't as good as Zadra's, but it also allows more elements to be at their full potential, so elements like the stall, the outward bank turn and the rolls are about as good as they can get. And while the ride does lose some speed at the end, it just feels complete. Now at the stunning location, and you get the beast that is Wildfire. And at number 6 is Kondaa, Walibi Belgium's new Untamed mega coaster. Kondaa does really only one thing, which is airtime, but it excels at it. While there are a few elements that aren't airtime focused, the Whippy Stangle Dive for example, the crazy amount of ejector airtime on this ride is incredible. There is pretty much everything regarding ejector airtime on this ride, from the sustained hills at the start to the bunny hops at the end. Kondaa also has my favorite first drop on any coaster, as it's just crazy violent. On top of that, Kondaa is also my favorite coaster when it comes to sustained ejector airtime, so the ride is pretty much the perfect airtime machine. But if you take the violent airtime of Kondaa and put it on an RMC, you get the ride at number 5, Untamed at Walibi Holland. This masterpiece of a hybrid coaster feels illegal. Not only is the airtime ridiculously strong, but the inversions also deliver as good as they can. They provide whip, hang time, and sustained floater airtime, and that is all just the cherry on top of the thigh-crushing airtime. But what truly makes Untamed perfect are the quad hills towards the end of the ride, which still provide the greatest airtime I've ever experienced. If I would have marathoned this ride, then I don't even know if I could still walk after that. Coming in at the 4th spot is the Ride to Happiness at Plopsaland de Pan. This new for 2021 Mach Rides extreme spinning coaster is not from this world. While it's neither the tallest nor the fastest ride out there, the layout, together with the spinning, make this coaster something else. Not only does the ride feature my favorite inversion, which is the double inverting dive loop, but the airtime on the top hat as well as during the second half is insanely strong as well. Now add the fairly powerful launches and the other inversions and you get this masterpiece of a coaster. Yes, the ride has a rattle, but I can easily ignore it because those forces are just that crazy. Kicking off the top 3 is Lech Coaster, Legendia's Vekoma Bermuda Blitz coaster. What the hell did Vekoma do here? How did they make this ride so intense? The positive Gs on Lech Coaster are among the strongest I have experienced, and there are no dead spots here either. Of course the airtime is amazing as well, and the best element of the ride is a bunny hop, but the consistent positive Gs are what make this ride so damn good. The inversions are freaking great too, especially the reverse sidewinder. And if that wasn't enough, the ride even has really good theming. Yeah, Lech Coaster deserves the spot all the way. The second place takes Steel Vengeance, the legendary Armsy hybrid coaster at Cedar Point. Alan Chilke had an enormous structure to work with here, and he created something so amazing that it's hard to describe. The sheer amount of airtime on this ride is hard to comprehend, and the track length is insanely long as well, so this coaster never ends. While the first half mainly consists of larger elements for the higher speeds, the second half is packed with really small low to the ground elements, and when the train halts through the wooden structure of the first half, you are pretty much guaranteed to lose your orientation. Steel Vengeance is definitely my favorite coaster when it comes to airtime. But of course, my all-time favorite roller coaster is still Dashwood's Kärnan and Hansa Park. It's still the most intense and aggressive coaster I've experienced, it still delivers the best complete experience, and it is just beyond perfect. The positive Gs are not from this world, the airtime is violent, the levels are powerful, the whip out of the Strangle Life is the greatest sensation I've ever experienced, and the additional bit of hang time at the end is just sweet. Kärnan's theming, story, and especially the tower experience creates such an incredible suspense, and the following layout just blows your mind every time you experience it. If you haven't experienced Kärnan yourself, you definitely should try to get out to Hansa Park, because it will be worth it, trust me. And that was my annual coaster ranking. I hope you all had a great start into 2022, and I also hope that many of us will be able to ride some great coasters this year. Thanks for watching, bye.